So, Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down as president of Lucasfilm, and Dave Filoni and Lynwen Brennan are going to be co-presidents of Lucasfilm going forward. And obviously, I know I'm late to this news, but I want to just talk about whether or not I like this and kind of what it means for Star Wars moving forward. So, do I like this move? I definitely think change was needed, and I'm honestly not even sure who else would have been able to take the job as president. I think Jon Favreau is another candidate, but that's been reported that he didn't, or it's been reported that he didn't want the job, or maybe they didn't even offer it to him. It's hard to tell what really happened or what happens behind the scenes, but yeah, like I said, I definitely think change was needed now. But do I think Dave Filoni will be good change? That I don't know. I think something that's important to note here is the projects coming out for the next year or two are still going to be kind of under the old leadership in terms of Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger. And yeah, I know Bob Iger left too. So on top of all this, but back to Dave Filoni, he worked under George with the Clone Wars, and it seems like George took him under his wing at that time, which I think is good. It feels like Dave respects what George created and strives to kind of make things in a way that comes as close to George's vision as the creative Star Wars, as possible. Or at least that's what I'm hoping happens. Now, with that being said, Lucasfilm and Star Wars are still owned by Disney, meaning, just because Dave is president doesn't necessarily mean he has all the power and control to do what he wants. He obviously has more power than he did before, but I don't think the president at Lucasfilm has all the control. I think Disney, obviously, the higher ups at Disney, at times pick and choose what they want and how they want it, and I think that's what kind of happened since Disney bought Lucasfilm. I think a lot of projects were rushed out to meet timelines and other things, and I don't think it worked out for them. I think, obviously, anytime you rush something and kind of push things out as quick as possible just to get a movie out or a show out or whatever, you can tell, and unfortunately that's still the case with this. They can always say, hey, we want you to make this movie by this time, and we're not extending it for anything, and obviously that is a bad idea. So again, coming back to it, do I like this? Yes, I like Filoni, but I don't like how Disney, still owns Lucasfilm. I'm not totally sure what will change. I guess I'm just trying to say I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic about this situation, and I'm hopeful that this will be beneficial for Star Wars moving forward, but obviously time will tell, and again, it's hard to know with any new projects announced. I'm assuming they'll be under Filoni's vision or what he thinks Star Wars should be, but again, like I said, Disney is the only thing I'm worried about. Disney still has control over Lucasfilm. Nothing has changed there, so I don't know that anything will really change, and that's the reality of it. Because Disney really hasn't proven that they can take care of Star Wars in a way that fans hope they would. So, and I'm now just realizing that I kind of answered both questions I wanted to answer in one. The second thing I wanted to focus on was what will change with Star Wars, and that's kind of a speculative question because it's so hard to tell. What I can say is Dave loves his characters, and he loves Star Wars. I'm assuming we're obviously still getting Ahsoka Season 2. I'm not sure if we're getting anything post-sequels. I know there are projects in development featuring sequel characters like Rey, but I don't know if that ever actually happens, and I don't know how Dave feels about the sequels. Another thing I think I know about Dave is that he cares about Luke and how he's perceived, and I think he did some justice to that in the Book of Boba Fett with the way Luke was portrayed. Just his actions, his dialogue, and what he represented in the few episodes he was in. So, assuming that, I would think we're getting more stuff in the New Republic timeline, and if you asked me what I think we'll see, it's probably that. I know they're trying to tell stories with the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and then obviously we have Ahsoka Season 2 still coming out. I also know Dave had a movie in development, and reports were coming out that it was kind of an Heir to the Empire type movie with Thrawn as the villain, and bringing the Mandoverse characters from the different shows and storylines into one movie, kind of like a team up against Thrawn, which, I think could be cool. I just think the Thrawn trilogy is so good that if you were going to do something like that, I'd rather just adapt the book. I know that's super hard to do and probably won't happen because they tend to change canon and legends to fit certain storylines, and I realize that's probably something we won't see, but if they were going to do it, that's what I'd hope for. And another thing I want to talk about is that Kathleen Kennedy has said in the past that Star Wars has very little or no source material. I forget the exact quote, but that was something she said. Obviously, that's not true. They can go in a bunch of different directions. There's tons of source material from tons of different eras that they can pick from to go in a certain direction if they want to, and they have tons of options. they can go really, really far back in the past and dive into the Dawn of the Jedi era, or the Old Republic era, or the High Republic era. Um, there are also tons of stories from the era that the movies take place, from characters we've seen on screen. There are tons of different stories from the books and other material that haven't been put on screen yet from that time. And it just, depends on what they may choose to do. But there is tons of stories they could tell. And then obviously you can go into the future. There's stuff in Legends that could be told. So there's a ton of material they could pull from, and a ton of different options, despite what has been said in the past. So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to talk about. Hopefully Dave Filoni can make some good change with Star Wars, and obviously we'll see. Time will tell whether that's going to happen or not. If you're seeing this, let me know what you think about it. And that's it.